I think we can give some leeway to the vice president, like it's in the title, vice president. Leeway that I would not be willing to give Secretary of State.
Maybe, but per the law, he does not enjoy the same unilateral declassification authority that the president does.
I understand, but it's like when we talked about when it first broke that, like, this is just what executives do. Like, if we're gonna go after Trump for this, we literally have to go after every living president and probably every living vice president for the same thing. But no, it's just the orange man.
Yeah, orange man bad. And good morning. Here, let me scoot that over just a little bit.
Do a slight adjustment. There we go. Good morning.
That remote was totally worth the $30.
If you say so, buddy.
Now that I've got it operating correctly.
Well, everything's worth it if it works.
Well, yeah.
Nothing's worth it if it doesn't work. Like, that's Call the Law, It's a Camera. That's a great name.
Wait, did GCM just change his name?
Just for that joke. That's fantastic.
That's awesome.
That's fantastic. So hey guys.
Or do you just have the same thumbnail? Because I think Call the Law, It's a Camera is actually another auditing channel. Correct me if I'm wrong there, GCM. But
anyhow. Hey, good morning. It's a backup channel. There. All right, so Rob Hova, still one of my favorite people to see pop up. Like, the fact that Raditz is his avatar. Like, buddy, you have told me everything I need to know about your nerddom, and I know that you and I would be friends IRL. Just based on your avatar picture.
Earl? Who's Earl? Hey. I'm sorry, I couldn't.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, well played. And then good morning to Scrimshaw Rose.
Crackshot says all flights have been canceled. What?
I hope No has a flight today. And then the Fit Life with Danielle. Good morning. And after FAA failure.
Whoa.
Wow.
So there's a piece of news that I was not tracking on. Oh
no. HC. Jesus.
Okay, so I guess we'll do a little breaking news real quick, then we'll get to the actual topic of the day. See what we got here. U.S. flights grounded due to computer system glitch. Planes parked at John F. Kennedy International Airport. Air travel across the U.S. has been disrupted this morning after the Federal Aviation Administration experienced a major computer outage. All flights were grounded following the incident, according to NBC News, leaving thousands of customers grounded across the country with no clear time frame. Working to restore its notice to air missions. Oh, the NOTAM system. Okay. because I'm a drone pilot, I have to keep up with that kind of stuff, especially when I'm flying to like College Park or Jonesboro, over near the airport. We're performing final validation checks and reloading the system. Now operations across the national airspace system are affected. We will provide frequent updates as we make progress. So it looks like there's not a whole lot of information available on the situation yet, other than sorry guys, y'all ain't going nowhere.
So federal government computer goes down and the entire airline industry is just on pause.
It's funny because I was already planning on talking about why we should abolish the entire federal government today anyway.
Look, there's one thing.
But you're absolutely right. This is the consequence. This is the natural consequence of centralized anything.
Oh yeah. This is why This is why you don't want shit centralized.
For example, we got Obamacare, centralized medicine, and it modeled similarly to things like the Canadian system, where did you know that the leading cause of death in Canada last year was medically assisted suicide?
No, I didn't know that. But okay, centralized anything is bad. Okay, because if the center goes down, your thing goes down. Obviously. Okay, and I'd like to know more about this whole system and how it works and why it's so important, and like, were all flights grounded? Like, if I've got like a little plane, am I grounded? Am I not allowed to fly from like the Decatur airport to the Polk County airport?
Oh, yes.
Okay, that's
okay, so there are certain categories of ultralight where you can just go fly. But for the most part, if you're talking about anything if you're talking about anything where you have to have a license to fly it, you have to file a flight plan to fly it. NOTAM is that system. Okay, well that's, and just one other thing. Remember a few weeks ago when it was just like one of the coldest Christmases on record, and there were flights that were delayed, and Southwest in particular experienced more problems than any other. Not Southwest.
Well, look, I'm actually not here to shit on Southwest. Southwest business model does allow them to consistently have a cheaper airline experience than their competitors, and I do mean consistently, okay? And then Southwest had the most problems during all that because of the way Southwest staffs everything, okay? Like, they literally kind of rotate around and pick up a new crew from city to city. So if their logistics chain breaks down, it breaks all the way down, right?
I'm sorry. This is for Cam's big spoon. Sorry. Yes, it breaks all the way down.
Okay. Anyhow, Pete Booty Juice and the federal government have been very hard on Southwest. Well, how dare Southwest allow a thing like this to happen? Okay, cool. Hey, Pete, how dare you allow the entire fucking airline industry to go down because somebody's computer crashed?
That seems like something that you could have done in, I don't know, 3 months.
Well, I mean, he's been transportation secretary basically since the beginning.
Yeah.
And
long enough to take 3 months off for paternity leave.
Yeah, exactly.
Immediately after taking the office.
Well, and there's a whole nother thing that goes along with this, right? You know how like when we go shoot a video for a client, we copy everything over to our computer.
Yep.
And then we copy everything over to our backup hard drives.
Yep.
Where's the backup for, like, obviously I'd argue that this computer system is one of the top 10 most important computer systems in the country. And the proof is right here in the pudding, because if it goes down...
In the world.
Yeah, commercial travel just goes...
In the world.
Yeah, that's the same thing.
Yeah.
You're repeating me.
Well, fair enough.
Okay. Anyhow, so where's the backup system?
Not here.
Like hospital... yeah. Hospital ICU units, they have generators in case the power goes out.
Yep.
Everything about it.
Hova says you're asking a big business for records. No, we're asking the government for records, which, by the way, they're obligated to provide outside of extraordinarily extraneous circumstances.
Pitch Annie says Pete needs his family time. I'm okay with Pete having his family time, even though that's a whole nother bucket of worms I don't want to get into. But he can't keep his iPhone on him and work from home?
Right.
I mean, that's what most of us do. Unless we've got some cushy federal government job. But he's Mayor Pete. Anyhow. So, yeah, that's some breaking news.
Well, I took a break from my day job when we had our first kid. I went to Afghanistan for a year. Shitbag. Anyway,
so other things about the federal government that suck. Boy, this dovetailed rather nicely.
It did. Oh, God. Okay, Big Spoon.
Okay. Woo! All right, let's actually get to the topic.
I don't want to think about Booty Juice's prison wallet today. I really don't. Here's what I want to think about. Okay. And I actually said this on the show yesterday. Guys, I'm going to try. I don't want the whole Speaker of the House debacle where he lost 14 votes before he got in to be the only thing we talk about for months and months. Kind of the way, I said over and over again previously, I'm tired of talking about the Twitter files. I don't want to talk about the Twitter files
anymore. Tired of talking about COVID.
But there's this, yeah, right. But now there's this whole new huge development that's important, and we're going to have to cover that now. So, result of McCarthy getting the speakership. And guys, the holdouts got a lot of grief for being holdouts, right? And I have to say that with what we're seeing now, that was the right play. They have done right by their constituents. The holdouts that forced McCarthy to the table to negotiate.
Oh, it was totally the right move.
Oh, yeah. One of the concessions that they secured is the House Republicans to vote on bill to abolish the IRS, eliminating the income tax, right? So the House is set to vote on abolishing the Internal Revenue Service in the 110th year of its malediction. And that is probably the best news you're going to hear all year. Unless the Supreme Court actually comes down on the right side of this case that's going in front of it in the next couple weeks that says Trump is the president. Which that's a whole other thing that we got to talk about sometime later.
The Supreme Court, the 2020 election was fine, YouTube.
Yeah, the Supreme Court's going to do stuff.
Yeah, this is the good...
Supreme Court's good. They never get anything wrong. Not since Ginsburg died. Shit, Ginsburg dropped dead, and all of a sudden Roberts actually started doing a thing right every now and then. Like she was just pulling his string.
Hey, look, good morning, Sham God.
Sham God 94, you must be a specialist. So there's a good bit to talk about with the House Republicans to vote on the bill to abolish the IRS. This is spurred on by a reinvigoration of the Fair Tax Act, pushed in the House primarily, as I understand it, by Buddy Carter, who's one of our reps here in Georgia from the Savannah's 1st District.
Oh, yeah, the Fair Tax is homegrown.
Yeah.
Like, that is, yeah.
And not just because the Fair Tax is Georgia homegrown, but for several other reasons. I'm a big fan of the Fair Tax Act. And not just Fair Tax generally, but I'm a big fan of it over several of the other proposed alternatives, most especially the flat tax. It's no secret on this show, I was a big fan of Herman Cain. And I was a big fan of the idea of pursuing his 999 plan, just 9% for everybody, everything's 9%. It's not the fair tax, but it beats the absolute crap out of the current situation, which is half, right? With the fair, and it's more than half. Don't get it twisted. You pay more than half of your money out in taxes, even if you are somebody who gets everything back at the end of the year, or gets back more than you put in at the end of the year, between sales tax, SPLOST, Vice, et cetera, you pay more than half your money in taxes, and it's psychotic. But with the current regime of the IRS and the existing federal tax code, you are a tax evading criminal. You cannot help but be. The system is designed to cause that to be the case.
Unless you're Donald Trump. Apparently your taxes are fine if you're Donald Trump.
Well, yeah, if you can afford enough lawyers to go through all the minutia, then sure. Sham God, I'm a young independent, I guess I would say, but I'm trying to get more into politics, but I'm trying to get a feel for different points of view. There's a lot I don't know, so here I am. My boy, you are in the right place. We're here every morning at 07:30. I'm going out of town for a couple of days, but he'll be here tomorrow and Friday, and I'll be back on Monday. Every morning, 7:30, join us, and we will get you edumacated. So, let's go ahead and face the hard pill. Let's go ahead and swallow the hard pill. The IRS isn't going anywhere. Not now. This bill that the Republicans are about to vote on may pass the House. Almost certainly will not pass the Senate.
No.
And even if we got that lucky, it dies on the president's desk. So it's not going to happen. But this, I think, could signal a turn in politics generally. As we've talked about many times before, the best you can hope for from your Republican representatives, they're gutless and feckless, and they just don't do what we expect them to do, what we elect them to do. You get Democrats in charge, and they drive the car off the cliff. The best you can hope for is you get a Republican to put his foot on the brake and slow it down and obstruct. This is not obstruction. This is action. This is a significant maneuver. And what we can hope for, and I dare say what we can encourage and enforce, is to try and move Republicans generally to take a Democrat tactical approach to achieving the things that their constituents want. You look at things like Obergefell, you look at the federal income tax to begin with. Its origination back in 1913 when they told them, guys.
No, we're only going to tax the rich.
And it'll never be more than 2%.
So, yeah. Just a tiny bit.
Never more than 2%.
And then in less than a decade, it was basically what you see now.
In less than a decade, the top marginal tax rate was 97% for 1 year, and then it came back down and it's fluctuated, and it's been psychotic.
Well, what I mean is how not only did the tax rate itself change, but the spread of the tax itself changed.
Correct.
Like yeah, sure, they told us that it wasn't going to be this thing that was going to soak up every American with a job, and yet
it does.
It does, absolutely. So much so that when you get your paycheck, hey, we went ahead and took care of those taxes for you. Be a real shame if you forgot to pay them.
Yeah, and anecdotally, the reason that we have paycheck withholding now is as a protest maneuver against the taxes. There were several different companies which, and we're talking about back in the 20s and 30s, but the way that they handled business is on payday, they would have these booths set up, and at the first booth, you walked up and they handed you your money in cash. They paid you. And then the next booth, you went and paid your taxes. And the company said, we're doing you a favor. We're helping make sure that you don't get in trouble with the law. And people would get their money at the booth, and then they'd walk to the next booth and they'd say, wait, you're taking how much? And the sentiment, the backlash was big, and then the government said, yeah, we're going to stop letting you see the money we're stealing.
Yeah, it's there's a whole bunch of psychology that goes into it. Okay, look, hold on, okay? Because the fair tax would be one of the absolute best things that could happen, period. We would solidify our economic position in the world for at least 20 years, I would argue. And it would fundamentally transform your relationship to the government for exactly what Chris just talked about. A lot of those lefties that on your Facebook page, that wine aunt of yours that has all the cats that talks about what's fair in the oligarchy, she would change her mind real quick if she got to keep her whole paycheck, and then suddenly somebody came along and said, well, we're going to start taking part of your paycheck away. Okay, yeah. Like she'd feel real different about it. Okay. Here's what I'm worried about, and I hate black-pilled shit, but I feel like it has to be introduced into this conversation, okay? Before we had a Republican president, before we had Donald Trump and Obama was still president, the Republicans took over the House and basically controlled it for the majority of Obama's presidency.
And achieved nothing.
Well, they achieved nothing because Obama was president.
Correct.
Okay? Didn't they vote to repeal Obamacare like 60 or 70 times while Obama was president, and he could just repeal it? Okay. And then we had Trump, and look, everybody remembers Trump said, I'm going to fix the border. But like Trump's number 2 plank was Obamacare sucks. We need to, right? Did they put a repeal bill on his desk? No.
Nope.
So here's the thing that I worry about.
That came down to John McCain.
Look, okay, and fuck John McCain. All right, yep. I'm with you. Okay, I understand. All right, but that's what I'm worried about. Okay, that this is going to be kind of like the abortion issue for the left. You ever notice how every time the left is in charge of things, they never pass a codified like abortion standards bill?
Yeah, talked about that yesterday.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
They want
the issue.
That's why they hated the Donald Trump came in and started slashing regulations, cutting tax rates, and all of a sudden America is enjoying unparalleled prosperity. And it was because he came in and he did specific things. Republicans and Democrats are both guilty of this. They avoid taking explicit actions and actually achieving their objectives. And this is one of the reasons that I prefer to elect people who are already wealthy and successful, because I want to see people there who want to accomplish missions, not who want to grow wealthy on graft and corruption.
Yeah, but the thing is...
But I need to go back to a comment real quick. Because MA said tax money mostly goes to the wrong places, siphoned through corruption, wasted on foolish, expensive projects, etc. Okay. That's true, but I want you to understand something, guys. I want to make sure this gets in your head and keep this in mind. There is nothing that the government does which cannot be done by a private industry or a private entity. Knowing that, understand that before you even concern yourself with corruption and fraud and waste and graft and all that other stuff that siphons money off the tax codes, the other thing you have to remember is every time the government spends $1, first it has to spend another one to pay somebody to spend it. So it is impossible, right? If we were able to eliminate all graft and corruption and the government was 100% above board and legit, it still cost more for it to do anything than for us to do everything.
Well, look, let me finish a thing, okay? And there's actually a way to tie it all back together, okay? What I'm worried about here is that this is for show. This is just like the left and the abortion and all that, okay? That is legit what I'm worried about. Let's have a Republican president and then put the fair tax on the floor.
I agree. I'm with you on that.
Let me see that, okay?
I'm with you on that.
And then hold on. There's the other piece to it, though. Removing the oversight agency, Okay, just because MA has continued to comment and actually contribute some value to the discussion. So here's the thing. We've had the IRS in place this entire time.
110 years.
Okay. And you could argue that the elites have only gotten more elite. They've only gotten wealthier. There are tax breaks that only exist if you're in the top 1%, and you can afford to pay the lawyers and the accountants to go get them for you. But I would argue that the tax code makes it legal to steal from a certain perspective. When you say, why do trillion-dollar oil companies get subsidies? Yeah, I agree. That sounds kind of like bullshit. It's almost like we've got this progressive tax code that favors you if you are absolutely rich as hell. So oversight.
Why do organizations like Planned Parenthood get tax deductions on political donations?
So
that's pure money laundering right there.
Yeah. So oversight from the IRS. I would argue, okay, are the rich only going to continue to get richer? Well, that's what rich tend to do. The rich tend to get richer.
Yeah, that's principle.
That's one of the things that makes them rich. Okay, and legal, illegal, ethical, unethical. I'm not talking about the morality of it. I'm saying it's what rich does. Rich generates more rich. Okay, so throwing out the IRS. It wouldn't even be a drop in the bucket. What would happen if we got rid of the IRS is me, him, you. Man, the middle of April would just be another weekend. That's what would happen. Yep. You would get your paycheck, you would go somewhere and they would say, hey, we're going to pay you $15 an hour. And then you would get your paycheck and it would be $15 an hour, right? You would just get the whole check. And I sincerely believe that nothing would do more to transform the individual's relationship, not only with the government, but with their health care, with their state government, with everything. If you could keep your whole check, suddenly places like New York that have high income taxes, and then suddenly things like Obamacare, for example, that's one thing that we're already used to. Oh, we're already used to having shit come out of our check before we get it. So sure, let's have another $40, $50, $60, $100 a week come out of my check for my health insurance, which is really a health subsidization, a health plan. I couldn't get the word out, man. I guess I need more. Thank you. So.
Yeah, and every time you see one of those commercials where it's like, oh, I got health insurance coverage for my family for $35 a month. No, you didn't. You're a liar. That's a false statement. You stole $2,000 a month from an American taxpayer, and you're putting in $35.
So I sincerely believe that the fair tax would be the healthiest thing. And it is also the easiest thing to defend when somebody goes, well, won't the rich pay their fair share? It'd be like, yeah, you're not about to pay a 20% tax on a yacht. I promise only rich people will do that.
And those so-called rich are already paying 80% of the taxes, even as they manage to evade taxes.
Yeah, their effective tax rate might be 15%, where your effective tax rate is 20%, but they're still paying the majority of the income taxes. So, yeah, go figure. Right? But just to bring it all the way back around, like, this is great. And I want all their names on a list. And I even said, as part of the whole speaker fight, forcing votes on all these issues is good.
Yes.
Because then we'll have everybody's name on a list.
I want to see a list that says these people want to tax you.
Well, these people don't want to solve the border problem. These people don't want to look at term limits.
Right.
All the other things that are supposed to get voted on here. Look, I'm okay with it.
And the list that says these people are for taxation, these people are against term limits, these people, that list, the headline is, these people are pro-corruption and anti-liberty. They are pro-corruption and they're against liberty, prosperity, and life,
liberty,
and happiness.
Right.
They're against liberty, prosperity, and life, because the same activists that are all for abortion, killing children, they're all for transing the kids, right? An activity that has a higher morbidity rate than COVID-19, by the way. They're all for going into the centralized medical system and bringing in the death panels that we've talked about before. Not just the death panels, but they're going to escalate to something like the medical assistance in dying thing that they're doing in Canada. Right. They are morally comfortable with taking your money at gunpoint, with murdering you to deprive you of property. They are a cult with five pillars, a cult of death. They worship death. And they do it with human sacrifice through Planned Parenthood.
Remember just a few decades ago in movies like Soylent Green, when government-assisted suicide being a positive thing was considered just dystopian nonsense?
Right. And then just last year, we saw that California is planning to start using our dead as compost.
I thought that was New York, but whatever. Of course it's a liberal.
Yeah.
Of course it's a liberal city.
It's one of the larger cancers.
That's right.
But yeah, they're going to start composting the dead and growing food in the composted dead, which they're going to use to make your Impossible Whoppers and your plant-based meats.
Yeah. Isn't it weird?
The Impossible Whopper is Soylent Green.
Yeah, isn't it weird how the IRS, not the IRS, isn't it weird how the vegetarians, like, they're always trying to say, no, it tastes just like chicken. But, like, meat eaters are never like, oh, it tastes just like broccoli.
It tastes just like chicken. And all I can think is, why don't you drink spring water, Ron?
But look, okay.
Yeah, Jeff, we covered the People Burger on this show, too.
Look, long story short, though, okay, as much as I would hope that this is a step in the right direction, and anytime the fair tax comes along, I get excited. Okay?
Hell yeah.
Like, I get seriously excited because, dear God, I need to keep my whole check. Let me tell you, I work a lot of hours, and it's pretty darn frustrating that, that things are the way that they are. So, but yeah, I am worried that this in particular, because it would represent such a fundamental shift, like, again, I'm going to compare it to the abortion issue. If you codified some kind of national standard on abortion, the debate would be over.
Yeah. And you wouldn't be able to run on it anymore. And that's something that people need to understand, is that politicians generally do not want to solve your problem because, well, and this is an important distinction too, because we have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, we had our Donald Trump, we have politicians going into government finally who were successful people before they went in. Getting elected to office is not how they got rich. They made their money, they achieved their goals, and then they went on to public service. And that's a big, significant distinction, right? As opposed to people like the Obamas, who came in and just shit right down your throats for 8 years and made millions, if not billions of dollars off your backs.
So, just one other thing I want to touch on real quick. I know we're over time, but back up there, Scrimshaw asked a question about weaponizing the IRS, and I think a little bit of a reframe is in order. Nobody had to tell the IRS how to be a weapon, right? It's peopled, especially as you move up into its leadership positions, by folks that possess a certain worldview, that very much believe that we can have utopia here on Earth. You could totally make an omelet. You just have to be willing to break a few eggs. Just the same with like the FBI. Nobody in the FBI needed to be told, let's spy on Trump and hope we can nail the son of a bitch on something, because holy shit, it looks like he's actually got a shot at being president. Nobody in the FBI was told to do that. They knew that was the thing to do. Obama didn't call up Lois Lerner and say, oh, listen here, well, I need for you to delay the paperwork on those Tea Party groups, right? Lois Lerner.
That's actually pretty good Obama.
Thank you. I do a good Fauci, but apparently it makes everybody want to hit me.
Your Fauci's awful.
No, my Fauci's great. That's why you hate it.
Yeah, because Fauci's awful.
Right? But Obama didn't need to call up Lois Lerner to tell her to do that. Lois Lerner already wanted to do that, and Lois Lerner was in a leadership position at the IRS, so she could do that. For better or worse, everybody that ever ran for public office, at least some small part of their personality, wanted the fame, wanted the glory, and wanted the power. And then when you move up the bureaucracy ladder, you get a lot of that same power. You even get some of the glory, but you can leapfrog the fame and potentially get even more done, because now nobody's looking at you. Nobody gives a shit about you, like, period. So there you go. That's, just wanted to point that out, that it's not that it's not anybody telling the IRS to be weaponized. I would argue that the IRS is actually functioning as intended. It's a progressive, Marxist-inspired tax collecting system. And anytime you have the Marxists involved, it's supposed to be emotional and opaque, and we are the first ones. There was no history before us, and we're going to use the tax code to right the wrongs and forgive the sins of the past. And damn it, if that means that those evil oil companies get billion-dollar subsidies despite having $1 trillion in assets, well, that's just how it has to be. Meanwhile, you in the middle of April, boy, you better file your taxes on time.
All right,
better do it.
I got to go ahead and put a pin in it there. There's so much on this topic that I want to discuss, and I'll go ahead and make a prediction. I suspect that we will be doing a show next week sometime to talk about how this bill failed. If we're very lucky, it gets through the House and fails in the Senate. But we will be talking at that point about the slow pressure cooker that created things like Obamacare and all kind of other liberal policies, and how that tactical approach is a good one for the Republicans to adopt. And of course, that conversation is going to include a lot of rules for radicals references.
Obviously.
So, all right, you guys be safe out there. We love you, and I'll see you Monday, but Cameron will take care of you tomorrow morning and Friday. Be safe.
Don't.
Just real quick before I shut it off, Rob says, I've said it before, I've said it before and I'll say it again. You guys need a full hour. And every now and then we take one. Just keep hoping.